I love printing. I love printing. I love it. I love printing.
Today, we're fortunate enough to have Thayer Long with us. And welcome, Thayer.
Hi, Warren. Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure. So just a little bit of house cleaning first. Full disclosure, I am a board member at APTech, and Thayer is our president. I thought today would be a great day to have, or a great time to have Thayer on with us, as his position is dealing, overseeing the association, working with manufacturers and printers. And I thought he would have a good overview of what's been happening, I guess, what's been happening, what's happening, what might happen.
What hasn't been happening, right? What hasn't been happening for almost 18 months, right?
How long already? Wow.
Yeah, it's been that long, Warren.
So what I'd like to do first is I'd like to give you, as long as you want, because I'm a board member, to tell everybody who's listening about APTech and really why they should join us, because we're a great association.
Well, we are, and actually, it's people ask what APTech's been up to, and I always give a very honest answer, and the honest answer is, APTech is very representative of the industry that it works in, and as a result, and I think we're going to talk about today how the print industry is in transition. Well, frankly, APTech is an organization that's in transition. APTech, which was previously NPES, we were a manufacturer-based association, and our main value proposition, I don't care what anyone says, was we organized and produced trade shows, and we facilitated the transactions between manufacturers and printers on equipment, software, supplies, etc. That's what we did. And for reasons that would probably go way beyond the time that we have today, that business changed for us. And just like, again, if you're a printer, your business is changing. And
well, I was just going to add that in printing, it's always changing and evolving. For anybody to think that there's never been change or never will be change, you got to be off your rocker not to be always on the move.
Right. Absolutely.
You got to be off your rocker to be in the printing business, but that's a whole other conversation.
Well, right. We can get there. So, what is APTech up to? Well, I think we've positioned ourselves, I think why you're on our board, Warren, frankly, is because we were positioned ourselves a couple of years ago to be that voice of truth and optimism in the industry. That the future really belongs to entrepreneurs, people who are willing to think differently, willing to invest in their companies, are businesses that are looking for a different way of thinking and a different way of evolving. So what do we do? Well, over the past 18 months, we've been putting on several events. Of course, they've been virtual. We're focusing on topics that are very timely and niche. It's not our goal to be all things to all people. We still feel very strongly that our roots are in the commercial print industry. People who describe themselves as commercial printers, looking to serve them as they're developing new ways to drive revenue, to expand their services, which may include print, or which may include things that are adjacent to print, which is going on in our industry right now. We put out, I think, very good case studies and research for our industry. We're also very active in the industry standards realm, and we're doing things that are very involved now with brand owners, helping printers communicate better with their customers. We've got a wonderful council with some of the household brands out there on their print procurement side, helping to streamline that process. We're also involved in things I was mentioning to you earlier around content authenticity, and actually helping develop sort of a digital fingerprint, if you will, for content that's being developed. Again, is that print? Well, it's certainly bumping up against print and that industry. And so I think that what you're finding is the things that APTech is doing do represent a pathway into the future of the industry. And so that's something that I'm very, very proud of. we talk to me in a couple of weeks. We'll actually have some more plans that we're looking at developing for 2022 once we get back into in person. In particular, we're also developing communities of customers. So we're developing communities of print customers, whether or not they're in higher education, health and wellness, retail, right? The list can go on, but developing communities of marketers within those different verticals. So we've been up to a lot.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I've been involved in like NAPL and then ID Alliance and then Epicom and all along the way. And you know what? I have to tell you where we are or where we're at today and the things that you just mentioned we're doing, it's current. And I like to think today that print is not just print anymore. Print is communication, and it's all intertwined, interchanged, interchanneled, multi-channel, call it however you want. But it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to keep moving. And how do you move the digital? You still have to have the print.
Correct. And it's got to work together. And it's got to work together.
Yep. Right. And I think and my next question to you will be like, what do you think the state of the industry is now? But I thought that when the pandemic started, aside from being scared to death, not knowing if we were all going to live or die, and then there's the whole business aspect. But the one thing that I noticed at the beginning of the pandemic in our industry was there was a lot of people that were dragging their feet for the last 3, 4, 5 years. And, you know, for whatever their reason, they didn't want to get involved in MIS or web to print or any type of automation. And then all of a sudden, pandemic hits and everybody needs the MIS. Everybody needs the systems. Everyone needs more automation because you had less people. And there's a lot of people that were in it already or on the verge and it was good, but I was always concerned, or I'm concerned today about the people that were far behind because they're going to have the hardest struggle now, right?
Yeah, those that were far behind already are probably even more further behind. The future is bright for those that are willing to take risk and define the opportunity.
I like that you say that.
You know, the way that I you know, Dr. Joe, right? We all remember Dr. Joe. When I first came into the industry, I remember I called him up and I had just a thought, right? Because and that was, you know, about 5 years ago. I said, Dr. Joe, I said, you know, we're an industry that's obviously highly commoditized, right? I said, at what point do we as an industry stop measuring ourselves based on the volume, but more on the value of what we're doing? And it's just, I'm not saying that I'm this, you know, have this magic crystal ball or I'm somehow this savant, but I'm like, now it's kind of interesting when I'm starting to read things around how we're an industry now where we've got to talk about the value, not the volume. It's the value of print, right? It's the value of one printed piece, not the fact that you're printing 10 or 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000. So I think if you begin to dimension your thinking around the value of what you're creating for your customers, the value of that one printed piece versus how many you can churn out, I think you're already I think you're on the right path. What that means though, for an industry though, that is still a volume-based industry for both many printers out there, as well as many manufacturers, it's going to be that's going to be a tough adjustment, right? Because I think you still got a lot of companies, and certainly on the technology side, that are very efficient and that are built for speed and efficiency. And I think to then translate that into away from a volume conversation to a value conversation it's going to be difficult. So state of the industry, it's bright, but I think for some, it's going to continue to be very difficult and very challenging. And I think you're going to see that, you know, kind of play out over the next, I would say, 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, well, I think we always have the scragglers, and I refer to the scragglers as the people that just don't do much. They go in every day, they do their thing. I think that we're all in business, and you know, you mentioned volumes and commodity. I think everybody has to start thinking about their profit, and every job they do must be profitable, because without profit, you can't do much for much longer.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it's always bothered me when people look at their pricing or they look at the competitor and they haven't figured out what their cost. I'm always telling people, figure out your costs. Once you know your cost, what you charge is your choice. And if it's high value, great. And if it's low value, then you get to say you're doing it for a reason, but you know why you're doing it.
Right.
Right. As opposed to taking paper times 3 and putting it out of the 10 cents a click and charging 13 cents. It's really,
Right.
So what do you think we could do? Because the leaders in our industry are always the leaders. And I've been doing videos with a bunch of printers along the way.
Yeah.
And I've spoken with a few folks, men and women. I want to make sure I include everybody who are doing some really good stuff. And then there's others that I speak to that are like a deer in the headlight and they don't know what to do. Right.
So I think what we're attempting to do at APTech is we're trying to bring the community of those progressive printers together for 2 reasons. One, so they can learn from each other, right? I think that when I talk to a lot of printers, there's not an organization out there that they feel like is relevant to them because they are thinking differently. They are focused on value, not so much volume. They're the kinds of printers that are willing to take some of that profit and invest it back into their companies, right? I mean, a farmer, if you're a farmer, you can't eat everything you harvest. You got to hold something back for the next year's seed. And I think that there's companies out there that do a better job and are more thoughtful about that than others. So I think what we're trying to do is develop that community for them, but then also for others too, so they can, I've always found some of the most successful businesses are also those that are the most willing to share. And they're the most willing to talk about what they do. All right. That's just a mindset that they have. And that's what I found with the printers that have come into APTech is that they're not only do they want themselves to be successful, but they have this abundance mentality where they want others around them to be successful. And I think, so I think that's a really important that from an industry-wide perspective that we could be doing.
Oh my God, you're so right. And so this is the other thing, and right along those lines is there are no secrets in our industry, right? There's no secrets to what anyone's
No secrets.
doing. Companies can call a coating anything they want, but chances are most of the coating manufacturers aren't making special coatings unless you're producing truckloads of it for a particular need. Right? The die cutting, the finishing, the digital,
Right.
We need more people talking. And the truth is, if we talk more, and maybe some of the better companies could better educate the smaller companies to make them see it, and then everyone's value goes up.
Right.
It's a little, and I mean, I always say it, we're not allowed to talk about collusion. And it's not about collusion, it's about working together. The oil companies do it.
Right.
We could work like the oil companies.
We can work together. And, I feel like it's just really important that, that the industry begins to just really recognize the fact that there's a new generation coming and that there's a new way of doing things. And it's going to be impacting, their businesses, the future of their companies. And so it's almost like now, and I've been noticing this a lot in some other industries that I've been tracking, that we've an industry that's been talking about change for a long time might now actually be ready for it. And so that's where I think the print industry is. And I think a lot of it was crystallized just through the past 18 months. That
was a wake-up call.
A big wake-up call for sure.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think, I think the industry, and here's the one other thing that I think can really help the industry is my sense is there's a lot of people out there that want to change. They want to do good by their employees, by their companies. They sit through programs, they learn, they know what they're supposed to do, but they just have a really tough time doing it. And so our industry needs more people, Warren, and I'll put a plug in for somebody like yourself because I see you out there doing that. They need trusted people that have been there, that have maybe have had a lot of success. Maybe you've also made some mistakes along the way to really say, listen, you know, here's how you should be positioning your company. Because as you said, there's really no secrets, right? A lot of it becomes down to the basics, blocking, tackling. How do you adjust your mindset? And people need help with that. And frankly, association executives need help with that too. So, I mean, I'm telling you kind of from personal experience as well.
Well, I could tell you from my own personal experience, and I think everybody kind of knows me. I've always been the aggressor in the sense of wanting to do things, try new things, right? Do things that people aren't doing. In my company, I used to bring all kinds of ideas and stuff to the table. And the one thing that at the end of the day that I realized, our biggest and most important asset is the people. And one of the biggest mistakes that I made in business, even at the end when I lost my business, there was people I should have banged out of that door so fast. People in the company told me about people. And for my own reasons, for my own fear, for my own lack of responding on the spot and doing it, that was one of the bigger issues in me going down the drain. And
Right.
it kills me to say it because I had a great company. And at one point I had an amazing culture. But now when I talk to people, I remember even when we did an MIS system, when we put an Avanti slingshot. And of course, I did the stupid thing of turn off the old system, turn on the new one, thinking everyone would jump on and we'd get it working right away. That didn't happen. I had a mutiny.
Right.
But the biggest thing I noticed there was the system was okay. My people were fighting the change because they didn't want to listen and understand that we're going to have a tough year implementing it, but I'm going to make your life easier after.
Right.
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 So
Right.
I can't talk enough about companies making sure that you have the right people, because without the right people, you can't make the change.
100% agree.
Right.
100% agree.
That is, and I will tell everyone, I had a bunch of people and I was a nice guy. I was afraid. It was, well, we'll wait for this. It'll get better. Things don't change. When your slide starts, you ain't coming out of it most of the time.
Right.
So that's one area that I think I could help some people and that I've seen it and I didn't listen.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think what's refreshing, again, that voice of truth and optimism, Warren, I like to work with people that have made some mistakes, right? Because that's often the best teacher, right? And you learn from that, and that's experience, and you can speak firsthand in terms of and I'm not saying that's about you. I'm just saying that in general.
I made tons of mistakes.
Right? When somebody comes in, if I ever get a call that says, "Hey, I can come in and make you 100%, successful, and we've made every customer of ours success." I mean, that doesn't mean that much to me, because it's like, that's not true. I know that's not true. We all make mistakes. We've all had misdirections. And again, I think that's where, when I talk to printers and some of the printers that are joining APTech, they freely admit that, and they share that, and they say, I've been wrong almost as many times as I've been right. Right. But that's all they need, right? If you're
wrong more times than I'm right.
so it's but that's the kind of, I think that's the kind of positioning the industry needs. It's that, again, back to that voice of truth and optimism.
Right.
They're not mutually exclusive. You can tell the truth, which shows your shortcomings, but it doesn't mean that you can't also come to understand that there's also it's just a really great time to be in the industry, and I believe that fervently.
Well, one of the best assets for me in my career in the industry has always been being part of a peer group. And I've been part of a couple peer groups for 15, 20 years with great people. One, it gives you the opportunity to go to other plants and see what happens. But B, then you get to almost build your own personal board of directors, because you discuss everything under the sun, but you get to turn to people that you develop trust in, right? So before you buy something, you talk to them. When the guy tells you that machine's no good, or what I would do is, if I call someone and say, "Hey, what about that?" He'd say, "Oh my God, it was terrible." I just move on.
Right.
I don't beat him with questions. He's smarter, bigger, better than me. His people said, no, thank you. You just saved me $1 million.
Well, a peer group doesn't let you get away with the BS, right? And listen, as humans, you can start drinking your own Kool-Aid. And you know what? As an industry, we can also start drinking our own Kool-Aid. And unfortunately, I think there's a lot of that I see out there in our industry publications where we're kind of drinking our own Kool-Aid a little bit. And I think it's not all doom and gloom. I think it's just realities that, there's going to be some massive structural changes that are going to be going on in our industry. But there's also going to be wonderful opportunities. And one example of that, I think, is, this whole industrial print thing. I mean, industrial print means a lot. I know what they think puts a lot out on it. My sense is the future in the industry is somewhere in that industrial print realm right now, right? However you want to define it, print electronics all the way down to architectural type printing. There's a lot there that
everywhere.
Sorry?
There's print everywhere.
Yeah. That's right. Back to there's print is everywhere. That's right.
We don't have to talk about specific markets or it's everywhere you turn your head. Like if I spin my head in my room right now, I got posters and books and things and computers and cameras, and even the speaker has a silk screen name on it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So I tell everybody, it's not going anywhere. It's what you make of it. I think we got to get rid of all the negative conversation to begin with, because we become our own enemies.
Correct. Right? But we can't do it at the sacrifice, though, of being truthful that the industry is changing.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
First.
Yeah.
Listen, you know what? I've never had anybody beat me up because I told the truth.
Well,
might have been difficult to get out of my mouth in some situations.
Yeah, I'm thinking I've come close. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think anyone's beat me up because I've told the truth. So
no, but I got beaten up a few times because I bend the truth.
That's right. Don't want to do that, Warren.
No, you know what? I got to tell you, it's been a long time. Now I take one path, call it the way I see it, always say the same thing. Because my memory is slipping, I never have to remember what I said because it's always from here.
Right.
And then you can't go wrong. It's pretty good.
Can't go wrong.
Okay, so I want to ask you another question. What your thoughts are, because it was a pretty big move when Printing United and NAPCO and all of them came together as one big entity. I've been hearing just a lot of talk, some good, some not. Some people not liking the fact that one place is so big and, for lack of better wording, controls or tries to control so much of an industry because they're nonprofit show. Everything's profit now, right? Before, shows were run different ways.
Right.
The affiliates all bailed on them.
So
I'm just curious, and not to diss anybody, because that's not what I want to ever do.
Right.
But what's your take, or what do you hear from bigger people, more people, manufacturers, stuff like that?
Well, I honestly, it doesn't come up in conversation as much as it used to. I mean, as I said earlier, I think an industry organizations tend to reflect the industries they represent. Printing United is an industry response, is an easy industry response to an industry that's being commoditized. And by the way, I'm not saying there's not a lot of value there. I think they do obviously provide a tremendous amount of value in having, the services that they do. I just don't, we've just decided to take a different approach, partly due to just sometimes circumstances out of our control, but also, decisions that we've consciously made, and I think you've got, I think there's a lot of opportunities to look at different niches within the industry and serve those niches really well. And that's the path we've decided to take. I think it is, you heard me say earlier, it's really hard to be all things to all people. But that's not also to say that there's not a need for sometimes an overarching organization. So
if we were to take the amount of associations that are left in the world of print and or packaging and labeling, can we get them together in a room where we all agree on like some messaging so that we are all consistent? as an industry?
Where's the fun in that, Warren?
Well,
You know, I mean, shouldn't we be an industry of divergent opinion and ideas?
well,
You know, I mean,
agreed, but we could all be promoting print with a general message. Well, everyone, regardless of where they joined, everyone used to put on their computer email, don't print this email.
right. No,
my email said, print the email. Paper is a renewable resource.
right.
First of all, I'm the guy who steals envelopes at the bank machine and goes on to CDAR and orders every annual report that's out there so that I keep some printer alive. When my bank says to me, do you want to go paperless? I'm like, screw yourself.
Well, no, I get that. I think
we could have general paths of conversation or
well, I think you have paths of conversation, but I think that I think for an industry like print where we need more innovation, I think we need more ideas and we need more voices out there, and we need different approaches. You know, one organization could take a certain approach, another organization could take another approach. I believe that different voices speaking are representative of a healthy industry. I think if you only got one voice with one message, that's not the sign of a healthy industry.
Okay, I may be more referring to a common message, right? The farmers in the milk, the the milkers, the Milk Dairy Association, they have their message, right? We could have buy more paper. I don't know, print more paper, drink more milk.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I think the message needs to be let's show the value of print.
Correct. That's what I'm talking about.
Not buy print for print's sake. I mean, I'll also sort of push back on that a little bit. I think print for print's sake is not an innovative.
No, you only buy print when you need print and you tie everything into print. But we could have the message coming from everyone where print is not dead, it's alive. Simple message. That's
Correct.
all. Right? So that we don't.
Anyways,
I've always got views on stuff because I just happen to.
Well, that's what makes you Warren Werbitt, the print whisperer, man. Come on, it's good, right? But this is a healthy exchange. That's a healthy conversation, and we need to have that as an industry. But you're not going to have that with only one voice. You need different voices.
Oh no!
And I'll point this out to you too. I think it's the NPOA, right? I mean, we always talk about how there's been consolidation in the industry of print associations. We had one NPOA, the National Print Owners Association. I think that started up like 10 years ago, something like that. So
I think it was John Henry who started that.
Right. I mean, but that just goes to show that even in the midst of all these other industry associations, there was still a need that wasn't being met.
Right.
And a group of people said, we need to get together because our needs aren't getting met. And so, I think there's just, but that's always, that's what happens in business too. Businesses start because you're going to create new customers associations can do the same thing.
Oh, for sure. So, wow. We can go on and on and on and on because we both happen to love print.
We do.
For anybody listening, really, if you're not a member of APTech, I would encourage you to look into it. It's not expensive, and the value that you get out of it is priceless. And the doors that you have available to you for information are just great, because I think as we move forward, information will be king or queen. Right? I don't even know how to talk anymore. I just want to make sure everybody's happy.
Absolutely. And listen, I'm honored that you invited me to be on here, and I wish all your listeners the best. I do believe there's no better time to be in the print industry.